Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadilladhina istafa. Amma ba'd. قال تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فلما أتاها نودي يا موسى إني أنا ربك فاخلع نعليك إنك بالوادي المقدس طوى. صدق الله العظيم. Dear respected brothers and elders and sisters that are listening, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, inshallah, we're going to talk about the most talked about Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran. And his stories appear everywhere in the Quran. His name is Prophet Musa alayhi salam. He's been mentioned by name 136 times. We're also going to talk about his brother Harun alayhi salam, who's been mentioned by name 20 times in the Holy Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the Quran highlights the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, his challenges with Fir'aun, the tyrant, and also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the Bani Israel. So inshallah we're going to split this episode in two parts. Today we're going to talk about Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun, and tomorrow we're going to talk about Musa alayhi salam and Bani Israel inshallah. So first and foremost, we got to remember and we got to go back. Remember we talked about Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam and Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, and how Yaqub alayhi salam, he's also known as Israel, and he had 12 sons. So they were known as Bani Israel, the children of Israel. And from them came the tribes of Bani Israel, the children of Bani Israel. And we learned how Prophet Yaqub left Palestine and they went to Egypt and they settled in Egypt. So initially in Egypt, there were only about 86 members of the Bani Israel. But slowly they started to multiply, and there was about 600,000 Bani Israel in Egypt. At that time, the ruler of Egypt was Pharaoh. He was a very evil person, a tyrant. He claimed himself to be God. He would say, Ana Rabbukumul A'la. I am God, I am the exalted one. Na'udhu billah. He would be vicious to the people. He would hurt the people. He would do zulm, oppression upon the people. People that were weak would listen and obey him and follow his commands. He would order them to worship him. They would worship him. So the people of Egypt, the Egyptians, there were approximately 2-3 million of them. And they were suppressed by Pharaoh. And they followed and obeyed him. Just the army of Pharaoh was approximately 1.5 million. So in Egypt, you had the population of the Egyptian and the Bani Israel. And all of them were being suppressed and tortured by this tyrant king who, na'udhu billah, thought himself to be God as well. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works in mysterious ways. One day, according to some narrations, Pharaoh, he had a dream that there was a fire starting from Bayt al-Maqdis and it took out Egypt and all the Egyptians. So his members, his people, his magicians, those people that would interpret the dream, they would say that this is a symbol that a child from the Bani Israel, he will rise up and he will destroy you and he will take your throne away. So Pharaoh, he didn't like to hear this. And immediately he said that every child, boy, every male child from the Bani Israel must be killed. Kill them all. So every newborn child from the Bani Israel was being killed. Then the ministers, he said, if we carry on killing them, then we'll have nobody to work for us. So they decided every second year, the children of Bani Israel, the male children, will be killed. And Allah's doing was that the mother of Musa alayhi salam, she was expecting the child in the year that the children were being killed. So she prayed out that, "Oh Allah, save my child." And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to her that when you have your child, place it into a basket and then put it into the river and throw it into the river and let it float in the river. So when Musa alayhi salam mother, she had the child, she placed Musa alayhi salam into the basket and she pushed the basket away. Now she was fearing for his life, that my child, what will happen to him? Where will he end up? At the same time, she was praying to Allah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took care of this child. This child, the basket came to stop outside the palace of Fir'aun. Look how Allah will work, and look how Allah works. In the hands of the enemy, in the house of the enemy, Musa alayhi salam will be raised up. So what happened was, the guards of the palace of Fir'aun, they seen this basket and they seen this child in this basket and they picked it up and they brought him to Fir'aun. The wife of Fir'aun, Asiya, she begged Fir'aun, please let us adopt this child. We don't have no children of our own. Let us please adopt this child. Fir'aun hesitantly, he accepted and gave into the demands of his wife. So Musa alayhi salam was being taken care of in the house of Fir'aun. But now the problem was, Musa alayhi salam wasn't taking any feed from any woman. So Asiya, she sent some slave girls out in the town to find some woman so that this child can be fed and suckled from. So as they were looking, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did it, that Musa alayhi salam mother, she was reunited with Musa alayhi salam, and Musa alayhi salam only drank the milk of his own mother. Pharaoh was surprised and asked, how is it that this child has taken to you? Now she didn't want to reveal that this was my child. She just said, all the children like my milk. So anyway, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he brought up He brought up Musa alayhi salam in the house of Fir'aun. So as Musa alayhi salam was growing up, he saw the zulm, the oppression. And one day, there was an argument between a person from the Bani Israel and one of the Egyptians. So Musa alayhi salam tried to resolve this argument. But it so happened that Musa alayhi salam, he did one blow against the Egyptian, and the Egyptian fell down and he passed away. So this man from Bani Israel, he ran away. And Musa felt guilty that I've just killed somebody. So next day what happened was, that same person from Bani Israel, again, he was arguing with somebody else now from the Egyptians. And Musa said, it's always you arguing. And the man from Bani Israel said, are you going to hit me just like you hit that person yesterday and you killed him? So the news got out that Musa killed the Egyptian. Now it wasn't safe for Musa to remain in Egypt. He had to leave because there was a warrant out for Musa alayhi salam. So Musa alayhi salam, he left Egypt. He went to a place called Madian. We talked about Prophet Shuaib alayhi salam yesterday. He was from Madian. So as he got there, he was very thirsty, hungry. He came to a well where people were feeding their flock of animals. And there were two women at the back waiting for their turn. So Musa alayhi salam, out of courtesy, he assisted and helped them. And these two women, they were the daughters of Prophet Shuaib alayhi salam. They seen that piety, they seen that this is a strong person, a caring person. So they invited him back to their house and they informed the father of the good deed he performed for them. So Prophet Shuaib alayhi salam, he proposed a suggestion to Prophet Musa alayhi salam that you get married to one of my daughters, but the dowry for this marriage is that you serve me for 10 years. You work as a shepherd for 10 years. Every prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was a shepherd. They would look after their flock. Because just how difficult it is to look after animal and arrange them and bring them together. Humans are just as worse. And to do their tarbiyat, to get them ready for prophethood, this was the training that was needed. So Prophet Musa alayhi salam served Prophet Shuaib alayhi salam for 10 years. And at the end of the 10 years, Prophet Shuaib alayhi salam gave his daughter to Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Now Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he was thinking, it's been a long time. I miss my clan, my family, the Bani Israel. I want to go back to Egypt. So he left Madian with his wife, and she was expecting a child at this time. As they got close to Mount Tur, the valley of Tuwa, what happened was, from a distance, he seen some light. And he thought there was fire because they were both feeling cold. They were walking during the night and it was cold. So he thought, I can get some fire from them and we can get warmed up. So as Musa alayhi salam came close to this light, it turned out there was no fire. But instead, this was the light of prophethood upon Prophet Musa alayhi salam. So as he came close, he was called, Inni ana rabbuka fakhla alayk. As Musa alayhi salam came close, O Musa, it is me, your Lord. So remove your shoes. You are in the sacred valley of Tuwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Prophet Musa alayhi salam for prophethood. And Allah ta'ala declared, Innani ana Allah, la ilaha illa anna, fa'budni wa aqim as-salati li dhikri. Surely I am Allah, there is no God but myself, so worship me and establish salah for my remembrance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Prophet Musa alayhi salam for this noble work of calling people towards the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and bringing the Bani Israel back to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to send Musa alayhi salam to Pharaoh and the people of Egypt, at that time the Egyptians were famous for their magic and sorcery. They would manipulate the people with their magic. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared Musa alayhi salam for the battle with the Egyptians. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Musa alayhi salam two signs. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first called out to Musa alayhi salam, وَمَا تِلْكَ بِيَمِينِكَ يَا Musa. What is in your right hand, O Musa? So Musa alayhi salam replied, قَالَ هِيَ عَصَايَ أَتَوَكَّلُ عَلَيْهَا وَأَحُشُّ بِهَا عَلَى غَنَمِي وَلِيَ فِيهَا مَآرِبُ أُخْرَى. Allah just asked, what's in your right hand? But Musa alayhi salam, he replied, it is my staff. But he didn't stop there. He said, I lean on it and I beat down the leaves with it for my sheep, and I have many other uses for it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave this power to Musa alayhi salam to converse with him. And that's why he was known as Kalimullah, the one that conversed and spoke with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, if you have the opportunity to talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Musa alayhi salam, he made the most of this opportunity to talk to his Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Musa alayhi salam, now throw down your staff. So Musa alayhi salam, he threw down his staff. And it turned out to be a big snake, huge. And Musa alayhi salam got scared. And he started to run off. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered Musa alayhi salam, don't be scared, pick it up. So he picked up the staff. He picked up this, that was like a snake, and it returned back to his staff. So that was the first miracle that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Prophet Musa alayhi salam, that his staff would turn into a big snake, and then when he would hold it again, it would return back into a staff. And the second sign Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Prophet Musa alayhi salam, that when he would place his hand underneath his arm, and when he would take out his hand would shine. And when he would put his hand back underneath his arm, it would return back to its normal position. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now ordered Musa alayhi salam, idhab ila Fir'auna innahu tagha. Now I want you to go to Fir'aun because he's exceeded all boundaries. Go to him. Here Musa alayhi salam made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli waj'al li waziran min ahli. My Lord, put my heart at peace for me and make my task easy for me and remove the knot from my tongue, so that they may understand my speech and make me an assistant from my own family. Prophet Musa alayhi salam would suffer from stuttering. So he made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open up this knot so that he can easily convey the message of Allah. And he also made another dua that, oh Allah, let there be an assistant for myself and let it be my brother Harun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also answered this dua of Musa alayhi salam and made Harun alayhi salam a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah. Now, Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam, they are equipped and they go to Fir'aun and they call him towards the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they tell him to release the Bani Israel. But Fir'aun wasn't having any of it. He was too proud, too arrogant. He was still claiming, I'm the God. I'm the one that has to be worshipped. Not the claim that you're making, you worship Allah. Na'udhu billah, how arrogant he was. Musa alayhi salam would give him dawah, but he still wouldn't understand. So Musa alayhi salam placed two signs, symbols, two miracles in front of him. First, he threw down his staff and it turned into a big snake. And everybody in that gathering got scared. Then Musa alayhi salam picked up the staff and it turned back into its normal shape. Then then Musa alayhi salam took out his hand and it lit up. And then Pharaoh said, "This is all magic. These are what my sorcerers can do. There's nothing extraordinary about this." So he laid a challenge on to Musa alayhi salam. "I will call my magicians and they will challenge you. And then we'll see if your Lord will help you." So it is said a day was organized where the sorcerers, the big sorcerers of Egypt got together. In some narrations it says 70 of them. They got together to challenge Musa alayhi salam. So they asked Musa salam, "Are you going to throw first or shall we throw first?" So Musa salam said, "You throw first." So they threw down their sticks and their ropes and they did magic and they deceived the people and they knew that they were performing magic. They tricked the eyes of the people and it looked like small snakes all moving around, 70 of them. Now people were shocked and surprised. Wow, this is a miracle. Then Allah ordered Musa salam, "Now you throw down your staff." Musa salam threw down his staff and it turned into a big snake and it gobbled up all of their little snakes. And people were shocked. The magicians were shocked. And the magicians admitted that what we did magic. We fooled and tricked the people. But what you did is not magic. That is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the power and qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And straight away, the magicians, they brought iman upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say, "We worship the Lord of Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam." Pharaoh became angry. "Who gave you permission that you can become Muslim? That you can believe in Allah? I haven't given you permission." The magician replied, "We don't need your permission. We've just witnessed the miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What we did was magic, and what Musa did was a symbol and a sign of the greatness and the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So do what you like to us. Now we have become Muslims." Pharaoh ordered all the magicians to be killed. And they said, "Do what you like. Our life is for Allah. Our living is for Allah. Our dying is for Allah." And they were all killed. Now, Pharaoh was angry and he ordered the ministers that every child of the Bani Israel must be killed. And Musa alayhi salam should be killed as well. But there was one believer who hid his iman. But he was a close member of Pharaoh, a relative of Pharaoh. But he had firm iman upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said to Pharaoh, "I don't think we should kill Musa alayhi salam. Let's leave him. Because if he's lying about these claims of Allah, then he's at loss. And if he's true, leave him to it. He's not bringing us no harm." So Pharaoh accepted and they didn't kill Musa alayhi salam. But the torture continued on the Bani Israel. Now Musa alayhi salam ordered Bani Israel to be patient and to listen to his orders and to his instructions, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make Bani Israel victorious and give them honor and respect once again, just like he gave honor and respect to Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam and Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam. So what happened was punishment started from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon the Egyptians. First of all, the Egyptians, they suffered drought for days. The Bani Israel, they were fine. They were eating from their crops. But the Egyptians were suffering from drought. So they came to Moses and please ask Allah to remove this hardship from us, and we will believe. So Moses prayed to Allah, Allah removed the drought. But they didn't obey. They went back on their word and they started worshipping Pharaoh. They started disobeying Musa alayhi salam. So the second time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent a flood. And the flood destroyed everything of the Egyptians. But it didn't touch the Bani Israel. And again, the Egyptians said to Musa, please pray to Allah that He relieves us of this hardship, and we will believe in you. So again, Musa prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed the floods, but they went back on their word and they didn't believe. So the third sign, the third punishment from Allah ta'ala, Allah sent locusts. Everywhere there was locusts. On their plate, on their beds, everywhere there were locusts. And the people were so fed up of it. The Egyptians, they came to Musa, please tell your Allah to remove this, and we will believe. And when Allah removed the hardship, again they went back to their ways and they didn't believe. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent lice. Lice were all over them. They kept on scratching themselves. They couldn't go to sleep. They couldn't rest. On their food was lice. Everywhere was lice. In their beds were lice. On their body was lice. Everywhere there was lice. Their life became torture. And they came back to Musa alayhi salam and said, if you say to Allah, if you beg Allah that He removes us of this hardship, we will believe. When Allah removed the hardship, again, they didn't believe. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent frogs. And the frogs were jumping everywhere, on their plates, on top of them, everywhere. When they would go to work, they would be everywhere. Frogs would be everywhere. And their life became horrendous. And again they came to Musa alayhi salam and said to Musa, please tell Allah to remove this hardship and we will believe this time. But again, they didn't believe. So then Allah Ta'ala sent the next punishment. Every time they would get water, the water will turn into blood. For the Bani Israel, the water was fine. The same water they would drink from. They would feed their animals. They would wash from. But when the Egyptians would touch the water, it would turn into blood. So when they would have their bath, it would be in blood. When they would drink water, it would be blood. So everything was blood. These were the punishments sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Egyptians for ignoring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And every time Allah removed the punishment, they said they would believe, but they would go back on their words. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He had something better in store for the Bani Israel. Allah ta'ala ordered Musa and the Bani Israel to leave Egypt during the night. So as they were planning to leave, then the news got to Pharaoh that the Bani Israel, 600,000 of them, are leaving Egypt under the instructions of Musa alayhi salam. So Pharaoh said, okay, they're going by foot, we've got our horse and our carriages, we will leave in the morning. and we will catch them up. So in the morning, Pharaoh and his 1.5 million army set off after Bani Israel. Now Bani Israel, they're under the instructions of Prophet Musa salam, and they're moving fast, knowing that Pharaoh and his army will come anytime, ready to kill them. So what happened was they came to the sea, and now there was no way for the Bani Israel to cross. In front of them was the sea, and behind them the army of Pharaoh. And the Bani Israel became worried, and they said to Musa, what are we going to do now? Musa told him not to worry, Allah will help us. And as the army drew nearer and they could see the Bani Israel, and the Bani Israel could see the army, Allah ordered Musa to hit the staff onto the sea. And when he did this, the sea parted and it made a way for the Bani Israel. And the sea parted to such an extent that on both sides it was like a mountain. The mountain to the right, mountain to the left, full of water, full of the sea. But there's now a pathway made for Musa alayhi salam and the Bani Israel to cross. So they started to cross. And as they reached the other side, Pharaoh and his army, they started to cross as well. And as they were crossing this sea, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed Musa alayhi salam, now hit your staff again onto the sea. And when he did that, the sea closed up upon them. And the army of Pharaoh were drowned in the sea. Whilst they were drowning, Pharaoh was also drowning. And as he's drowning, he says, Amantu annahu la ilaha illa alladhi amantu bihi. He says, I believe that there is no God but the one in whom the children of Israel believe. And I am going to be amongst those who submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La ilaha illa alladhi amanat bihi banu Israel wa anna min al-muslimin. I believe in Allah now. I become a Muslim. I believe what the Bani Israel believe in. Now to save his life, he is calling towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it was too late. He was too proud when it mattered. He rebelled against the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it mattered. But now to save his own life, he is calling out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because reality is, when your life is in danger, and you know that my life can go, there's nobody in the world that can save you except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many times you see this example when you're on a plane and you're sat next to somebody and he says, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God. And then on the journey, what happens is that you go through some turbulence or the plane is in trouble and the Muslim is calling out to Allah and he is praying. And this atheist, now he knows my life is in danger and he's saying, oh God, please save me. And the Muslim says to him, I thought you don't believe in a God. But now because his life is in danger, everybody starts to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because nobody can save you at that time. Only Allah if he wants. And that's our reality. All our life we do masti. We don't have time for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't have time to worship Him. We don't take out time to worship Him. We're too busy in our dunya and enjoying the dunya and all its pleasures. But then, when we are in danger and we see that nobody else can help us, then we call out to Allah. At least, alhamdulillah, that is good that we call out to Allah that time as well. But we should be remembering Allah in all times. In times of our happiness, when Allah is blessing us. In times of our sadness, when Allah is testing us. All the time we should remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the biggest tyrants of his time, Fir'aun. We think we're big timers. We think we've got the wealth. We think we've got the luxuries. And we think we're it. There was nobody more it than Fir'aun. He had the kingdom. He had slaves. He had people worshipping him. He suppressed everybody. He was in control of everything. But now, when he is drowning, all his kingdom is going away. All his men are sinking away. All his luxury is gone. Everything is gone. His being proud that he is God, na'uzubillah, and his claims of being God are all going away. And he's calling out to Allah. Now I believe. Now I'm from the Muslims. Just so that his life can be saved. But it was too late for Fir'aun. So it should be a lesson to all of us. No big timer gets away with anything. No bad boy gets away with anything. Allah will deal with you. Whether it be in the dunya or whether it be in the akhirat. Allah will deal with you. When Allah deals with you, then you will learn. Then you will know what it means to be dealt with. That's why learn your lessons from these stories now. That these big timers, the Pharaoh, they were destroyed. All the ego was gone. So we should learn lessons from this. So as Pharaoh drowned, the Bani Israel were looking at the sea, and all the people, the Egyptians, the army of Pharaoh had all drowned into the sea. All of a sudden, the sea spat out the body of Pharaoh. And again, this should be a lesson to us all. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَالْيَوْمَ نُنَجِّيكَ بِبَدْنِكَ لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً وَإِنَّ كَثِيرًا مِنَ النَّاسِ عَنْ آيَاتِنَا لَغَافِلُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He ordered the sea to spit out the body of Pharaoh. And Allah ta'ala says, so today we shall save your body so that you may become a sign for those after you. And many of the people are heedless of our signs. Even though the signs are there, they still don't pay attention. The body spat out, the sea spat out the body of Pharaoh. And today we can go to the museums, and we can go to the museum where the body of Pharaoh is lying there, and we can witness and see with our own eyes the body of Pharaoh. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants this to be a symbol and a sign for every arrogant person, every person that disbelieves, every person that ignores the calls of the prophets, that this will be your hashr, this will be your ending if you don't believe in Allah and the message of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention, even then, a lot of people are heedless. They ignore the signs. This is why, my brothers and sisters, we should all learn great lessons from these stories. We should learn that we should be humble in this world. We should appreciate the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us. The greatest blessing being our iman, the kalima la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. We have the honor of Islam. We have the honor of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of being the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's no better honor than being the servant and the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should always submit to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, taught by the Prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So today we're going to end our tafsir here. Inshallah, we will continue with Prophet Musa alayhi salam and the Bani Israel tomorrow, inshallah. May Allah ta'ala accept what has been said. Ameen. Wa akhiru dawana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.